turns to obsession.
For a long time, I didn't let myself want anything.
This is what we don't do. We don't forget who we are. We don't forget where we are.
You think that you're taking another man's away?
There are no rules.
I love you.
Shall I have him killed?
Kevin Costner, Anthony Quinn, Madeleine Stowe in a film by Tony Scott.
Where is she?
Revenge.
We're talking Costner, Tin Cup to Silverado.
Talking Costner. Here we
Bodyguard
are.
and Fandango.
We haven't sung the intro yet. Well, you originally sang it, but now Emmett sings it.
Yeah, we've never given the proper shout out to our boy Emmett.
That's actually true and probably pretty reprehensible.
He did us a really good favor of recording that and making it sound so good.
The best podcast theme on the internet, arranged and written by you. Incredible work.
I did, yeah.
I should say, written by you, and then the final cut that you all hear at the beginning of our episodes is arranged by our good friend of Stuck Out Here and Pew Pew Pew, Emmett O'Reilly. Incredible.
Emmett O'Reilly. We'll have to get him on the pod so everybody can meet the lovely man that is Emmett O'Reilly, who did that amazing theme song.
Yeah. What episode would Emmett be? Should we have him as a guest? Is there like what's the genre for Mr. Emmett O'Reilly that we could put him on?
Yeah, I don't know. He likes horror. We should get him on for like Mr.
Horror.
Brooks.
Oh, that's a good call. All right.
Yeah.
Emmett O'Reilly, we're throwing down the gauntlet right now. If you want to come in and spew your conspiracy theories like Vic did last time, Mr. Brooks is your time to shine.
You know where to find us. On the internet. Giving our Costner takes.
Wherever you listen.
All right. Today we got a big show.
Yeah.
Because we're doing two movies. We are.
We're back to our roots here.
We're back to our roots. We got a holdover from the first episode that we decided to kind of punt down a couple episodes because we thought 10 movies would be too many. So because we got the Gunrunner coming up, which was filmed in 1983. But not really released until 89. We thought we're going chronological order by release, not by filming. So let's do it then. Yeah. So we kind of shoehorned it in with another movie that is kind of shoehorned into Costner's career. Yes, that's right. 1990s Revenge by late, great Tony Scott.
Mm-hmm. So we're getting a bit of a return to Baby Costner, which I know a lot of people have been interested in the Baby Costner. We're getting some we're definitely getting some Costner butt in this, and a few fun Costner romps in the hay as well. Some rolls.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And we love those. That's basically why No Way Out scored so well for us. We love
seeing like Costner love scenes, and I'm here to say, even though I haven't yet gone through with Yellowstone, there better be some sex scenes coming up in that show because who does it better? Who better? Who better? Who better?
Nobody. No but E.
Oh man.
Not my best.
We're gonna cut that.
All right. So we're gonna guys, we're not gonna waste your time too much with The Gunrunner from 1989.
Yeah, let's dive into that.
Because we already wasted too much of our own time on it.
But a great hopefully pull for what I assume are mostly our fellow compatriot Northern Turtle Island Canadian listeners is this could be dubbed Kevin Costner Goes to Canada.
It's true.
Costner comes to Canada right here in The Gunrunner, made in 1983. As we said, not released till 1989, but is a Canadian movie. And
a lot of familiar faces to the CanCon world.
That's mostly what I have to talk about. But yeah, this is a Canadian flick originally from 1983, and it looks, feels, and reads exactly as you would think a 1980s a Canadian movie does, but with obviously a decent budget. And I don't say that because of Kevin Costner being in it, because this is 83, so he's barely out of Night Shift and Chasing Francis. This is still Baby Kevin. This isn't even Big Chill, being cut out of Big Chill yet. But it is a period piece, although you wouldn't know it from some of the costumes. They have one car from the 20s. You can definitely say that this is a feature-length movie. And that's
it's
probably about it.
It's got a plot. It's got a plot that does make sense. You can piece it together better than, say like a Malibu Hot Summer or Shadows Run Black or whatever the Nights, Stacy's Nights.
Yep.
I think if we had reviewed this movie amongst those other 9,
it would look a little better.
Maybe we would have been more. And I did watch it with them the first go around.
Yes, I remember that.
Yeah, the Gunrunner. That is a movie, and it definitely stars Kevin Costner.
Of all the movies we reviewed in the Baby Kevin in our opening episode, I would say this is his most starring role, more than
Testament or
definitely more than Testament, more than Stacy's Nights.
Yep.
I mean, Night Shift, he just has a bit part. So we, in a lot of ways, we can look at this as his first chance to really like have a movie that he is the linchpin in this movie.
Yeah.
Every scene and the whole plot revolves around him. And I would say it is really great. It's a movie that it requires a leading man performance, and they do get that out of Kevin right away. He's clearly a leading man.
And much better than the rest of the Canadian talent, I'm sorry to say to my compatriots, but towers above them, you might say.
Yeah. I think that there's a couple other elderly statesman actors in here.
Yes. So for those who don't know, we'll get into it, but just the brief IMDb synopsis is: a man becomes involved in violence and corruption when he goes to Montreal to buy arms for Chinese revolutionaries. Yep. That's not wrong. That's
and that is a plot.
Yeah,
that is a very clear plot.
It is a plot.
I would say maybe even a more clear plot, a clearer plot than another movie that we'll review today, in my opinion.
Oh, I don't know. We'll get into it.
We'll get into it. That's why we're here.
Some elder statesman, Paul Soles, who plays Loebman, who's like one of the seedy guy, old businessmen. I saw him play Shylock at Stratford.
Oh wow!
He was in the early 2000s. Yeah,
I was going to say because he passed away. Oh my god! You know what? I'm looking it up. He just passed away actually, just this past May. Speaking of other roles that he did, he was the title character in the voice cam of which incredibly famous superhero show?
I don't know.
He was the 1960s Spider-Man.
No way.
Yeah, the Spider-Man does whatever Spider can. That classic. He is the voice of Spider-Man in that movie. And
unreal.
Another voice performance, famous, especially for our childhood. Well, I'll just say, what famous Christmas special do you think he was in? Think kind of stop motion, not quite claymation, but stop motion Christmas special from, we would have watched it in our childhood, but it was made before our childhood.
Frosty the Snowman or Rudolph?
Rudolph. He plays Hermie, the elf who wants to be a dentist, in Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. So he's got he's got some credits to his name. Paul Soles.
And then Ron Lee, who plays George, he's in tons of Canadian TV, but he was in a recurring on Orphan Black. You'll see him. He was on everywhere.
He was on Street Legal.
Yes,
he's a Canadian guy you know to see.
Yeah, and he's only gotten better with age.
Yeah, he's a fine wine. It's a movie. It's got a plot. It's got cast, but it's it is truly nothing to write home about.
It has that same thing though with Stacy's Nights, where that has a plot and everything, but there's no fun to it. At least with Malibu Hot Summer or Shadows Run Black, you can have fun watching it. This is just not fun. Adam, what's your Costner score on this?
I'm going to give it a solid 5.75. Nothing.
Okay,
that's a passing grade because there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing bad that you look at about his performance in particular. And I recognize that, in a lot of ways, an actor can only really be as good as the script. The Star Wars prequels showed us that. But it's also, it's young Costner. He still has a lot of room to grow. And I think I can see, as I said, in retrospect, some of the places that he's fine-tuned his characterization, his scene work, his ability to take the energy of a scene and to ride the text and lift it off the page. I think that we've seen a lot of ways that he grows. So I'm going to give it a 5.5 for my Costner. Sorry, 5.75. My apologies.
Yeah, okay. And the movie?
I'm going to give it a solid 3 out of 10. It's
solid 3.
Listen, it's hard. It's hard making movies in Canada, especially in the early '80s. It's hard when you don't have a ton of resources behind you and budget behind you. But this is just a very uninteresting script. It's just a ton of bad exposition and things that don't make sense in terms of family dynamics. It's a 3 out of 10 for me.
Yeah. I'm in the same ballpark as you. I gave Kevin a solid passing grade. He doesn't turn water into wine here, but I gave him a 5, and I gave the movie a 3. It's a movie. It's not a movie.
It's not.
It's a solid 30%.
Can I ask you who your MVP of the Gunrunner is?
Oh, well, it's Kevin Costner, obviously. I don't.
Okay, yeah, all right,
I don't know. I didn't think too hard about it. I didn't go through any of the other categories.
Yeah,
there's no moments from this that are making them in memoriam. There's no memorabilia. There's no memorabilia.
Yeah. There isn't his jacket clearly from the 1980s that he's supposed to be wearing in the 20s. That's like an 80s bomber jacket, even though he's walking around.
He's got that look early. Like it's the signature Kevin look almost the whole movie.
So early that somehow he's got it in 1926. It's incredible.
Yeah. So this movie, I think it fits in nicely. It's just above. It comes in at a 4.18. It's just above The Big Chill, just below American Flyers. The Big Chill obviously suffers on the Kevin score because we gave him a bunch of zeros for that. So because he's not in the movie.
So that definitely has an asterisk beside it.
Yeah, obviously The Big Chill is a better movie than The Gunrunner, but as a Kevin Costner movie, it is not. All right, let's get to the good stuff. We got 1990s Revenge. A retired U.S. Navy pilot comes to Mexico where he falls in love with the wife of a powerful businessman. The consequences will be cruel and unforeseen. Dun, dun, dun. Let me tell you, they're not that unforeseen.
I was just going to say, I really take issue with that word unforeseen because I was losing my mind at how this character doesn't foresee what happens to him.
At how foreseen they are.
Yeah, how incredibly foreseen they are. One might say telegraphed, but we'll see.
Yeah. The movie stars Kevin Costner, Anthony Quinn, who's an elder statesman actor, much like our old friend Paul Soles, but maybe with a better career. He was in Lawrence of Arabia. Zorba the Greek also played Zeus in what childhood TV show that we loved? Hercules with Kevin Sorbo.
Yeah, that was one of the many wiki holes that I went down between these two movies. Was looking up him as Zeus.
Yeah, him as Zeus. It's got Madeline Stowe in not a breakout role, but a very early career role. She had just done Stakeout just before, then did this, then The Two Jakes, and of course she's incredible in Last of the Mohicans, which is a personal favorite film of mine.
That would probably be her like kind of smash breakout.
Yeah. A couple really great character actors after that. James Gammon, who you'll remember from Silverado.
I'm so excited that we've talked about him a bunch, and we were talking about him, and he was clearly wanted for the role of the manager in Bull Durham, but was already doing the exact same role in Major League. James Gammon. What a guy. Great. Yeah. All-time great character actor.
Another all-time great character actor, Miguel Ferrer.
Oh, yeah.
Who is in RoboCop, Twin Peaks, Traffic. He just passed away as well a couple years ago. Really great. Yeah, wow. Really great character actor.
As a kid, I remember him from Blank Check, which was like one of my favorite movies. Plays a great, a classic, like not just bad guy, but he can be the bad guy cop, the bad guy internal affairs kind of a detective. He plays, the ambitious RoboCop, like tech CEO.
And then a early role from John Leguizamo, who had done Casualties of War just before that. And then it's a nothing role in this movie, but a really great actress named Sally Kirkland, who plays the rock star in this. And I mean, we'll talk about it. This happens with Madeline Stowe as well. We are right in the middle of the era of leading ladies just being discarded so quickly, and really great actresses just being passed along. And Sally Kirkland, 2 years before this, was in a movie called Anna, where she was nominated for Best Actress and
Golden
deservedly
Globe, right?
so.
Yeah.
And an Oscar and a Golden Globe. Yeah, for Anna. She's just a really, really good actor. That movie she's really good in. More people should know the work of Sally Kirkland. And that's basically the cast. Then, of course, we've got at the helm, we've got Tony Scott, who is just coming off of Top Gun, Beverly Hills Cop 2, and this comes out the same year as Days of Thunder. So Tony Scott is kind of at peak Tony Scott. He'd have another peak later on with all of his Denzel movies, which are arguably a greater peak than this peak. Mm-hmm. It's based on a book by author named Jim Harrison, who's kind of known as the American novellaist.
So not quite a short story and not quite a book, but a novella that was originally published in Esquire. Yeah,
and it was published with another one of his novellas that became another hit movie. Well, a hit movie, not another hit movie, because this movie was not a hit.
A hit movie. The hit movie, Legends of the Fall.
Legends of the Fall. We've got Jeffrey Kimball as our DOP, as a director of photography, who was, Tony Scott's guy at that time, doing Top Gun, Beverly Hills Cop, True Romance. He didn't do Days of Thunder. No, though they all look
actually, that's kind of surprising. Yeah.
Them's the guys. Mm-hmm. Stats. This movie was filmed September 19th to December 14th, 1988, and it was released February 16th, 1990. This movie, I think, was in a bit of production hell for a long time. It seemed like it was in development from the moment the novella came out in 1979. A lot of different people attached to it. Finally, Kevin got attached to it. He was executive producing it, and then it still got pushed so much he actually left to do Field of Dreams and then come back and do this. So Field of Dreams stopped filming in August of 88, and then he went right away to do this in September of 88.
I've actually heard him tell the story about this movie, he was signed on to do it, and it kept getting pushed back month after month after month. And during that time, this script for, as he describes it, this little movie about corn came to him, and he was very interested in it. And this movie, Revenge, kept getting pushed back, and so he went to the other producers and said, "Listen, I want to go do this movie, this other movie." And they said, they were like, "What are you talking about? Like a movie about corn?" And he said, "I want to do it. They want me to be in it, and I want to be in it." And they said, this producer, I guess, said, "If you go do that, I'll sue you." And he said, "Okay, fine, go ahead and sue me." And then I guess a couple days later, the things had settled down a little bit, and the producer said, "All right, but as soon as you're done, you come do this movie." And he said, "Okay, deal." And so, this movie, as we'll get into, almost could have meant that we didn't have Costner in Field of Dreams, and maybe then, we don't have the Field of Dreams, I think, really, that we know, because we didn't get into it this much because we were disputing Vic's insane theories last month. But, and I didn't want to give her any red meat to jump on. But, of course, Field of Dreams on the page, as Ray Liotta has talked about, seems like it's going to be the worst movie ever. You're like, what? There's ghosts coming out of corn and a man's going to find his father. But then you have Kevin Costner, who makes that movie work. And so in some ways, Revenge could have prevented Field of Dreams. But in other ways, you could say Revenge's producers allowed Field of Dreams to happen. So that's one of the best credits, I think, to this movie, has that intertwined life with one of the classics.
Yeah, and there are also, we'll get into it. There should be a counter for how many times we say we'll get into it on this pod. But we'll get into it. It's kind of polar opposite career paths for Kevin, right? Clearly Revenge is this movie that he wants to do to shake up his image as the white bread American dad. Yes. And then Field of Dreams is white bread American dad.
That's right.
It's really interesting that these two that this falls in between Field of Dreams and then Dances with Wolves, which is also an interesting juxtaposition to Revenge.
Yes.
The budget of this movie was $22 million. It had an opening weekend, a strong opening weekend of $6.1 million. It's too bad it only stayed in the theaters for 4 weeks because it only had a worldwide gross of $15 million.
Wow.
So it came in hot. It got that Tony Scott rub and
that Kevin Costner rub at this point.
And that Kevin Costner rub. And then I'll tell you, it sure did get panned by critics, and I guess critics had that power.
Okay, wow. Because I was going to say, this sounds like 2021 where we're getting limited releases so we can go straight to a streaming platform, but we're in 1990 here.
No, they kept movies in theaters forever back then because
it was that
they had that control. Yeah, it is 35 for Costner all time in box office and number 32 box office adjusted. So
right. It's down there.
It is a forgotten classic or not classic, depending on who you ask.
Yeah.
We'll let you. We'll let you know what we think.
We'll get into it.
We'll get into it. It's got 6.2 on IMDb, a 33 critics score, and a 53% audience score. And Metacritic, they sure did hate it. It's got a 35.
Yeah.
All right, let's get into it.
We've saying we'll do it. Let's do it.
I mean, first we got just like, it looks like B-roll footage from Top Gun. We just got Cochran flying a fighter jet. He's a naval pilot. He's doing his last flight, just going through a rip over Mexican airspace. His partner's freaking out, but he's having a grand old time. He flies by his cabin. He says, "Do you want to go see my cabin?" Flies right by, so we know he's got a cabin.
Oh, you know what? I didn't catch that in the opening scene. That a cabin that would come back later.
That'll come back, and then we see he's done his last flight. He's having his retirement party. Just classic, raw Tony Scott, brotherhood of the military. Big party for him. He salutes all his guys. Says he'll miss them. He didn't think he'd miss them, but he is. Salutes them all and says pricks one and all, and they all laugh. He's gotten some gifts from his this mysterious Mexican friend named Tiburon Mendez. He's got some guns,
which we just know from a note, just a note that's there.
We just know from a note, and everyone's like, "Who the hell is that guy?" And they're like, "He's the one who supplied all the champagne." So this note says, "Come down to Mexico. Finally, you'll be able to be with me, and we'll hunt and have a good time." Cochran's driving down to Mexico. He's looking for a map. He's got his faithful pooch Rocky with him, which I think might be the dog from our photo. You know, the Talking Costner logo. I'm not sure, but it could be.
Honestly, I'm gonna look at this again. I think that you're right. That is.
I think that dog is from like the Revenge photo shoot or something.
Honestly, it looks like the exact same dog. So I think we finally have the mystery. The Easter egg is solved. That dog that is truly the dead center of our of our logo, of our cover photo. That
you
is
guys
Rocky.
Listen on Spotify or Apple Music or a podcast or whatever the shit. You go look now. That's the dog I'm talking about. That dog right there. He's got that dog with him. He's looks like a good faithful mutt.
If you're looking at it though, don't get too attached.
Oh, God. Don't get too attached. Don't get as attached. You might want to enact some revenge.
Maybe next episode we'll remove that dog from this. It'll just be the blue Force Ghost like the ones in the background.
Exactly. I'll just make them less opaque.
Oh, God.
Spoiler, that dog gets shot.
Oh, man.
So he's driving around. He's a little lost looking for his buddy Tibby's place, and he pulls up beside this beautiful, beautiful woman who is walking a horse and asks where the Mendez place is. She tells him. She says, "I'm Mrs. Mendez. It is Madeline Stowe. Playing Muriea? Is that how you say her name?
Yeah, Muriea, I believe. We're probably both butchering it, but yeah.
I feel like it kind of changed throughout the movie a little bit.
Muriea Mendez, Mrs. Mendez, at least.
So Mrs. Mendez. Cochran arrives at Tibby's house. He meets this butler who's a little antagonistic. They have a little antagonistic exchange about, you're late. And he's like, I'm on vacation. I'm not late. I show up whenever I want. And he's like, oh, Mr. Mendez, Tibby doesn't like late people. And he's got a pretty good response. Like, well, then you should be on time. You work for him. I don't. And we get a sense there's a couple people hanging around this Mendez estate that feel like more than just, the staff. They feel like they might be keeping a watchful eye on old Cochran.
Yeah, we're calling him a butler, but he's a pretty nefarious-looking character. Yeah.
One of those butlers that might wear an earpiece, and you're like, who's he talking to?
Yeah.
We meet Tibby at a tennis game. Him and Cochran are tennis buddies. And he's this gregarious older man. He's played by Anthony Quinn, who is really fantastic in this movie. This is a great performance. But yeah, he's this gregarious older man. He welcomes him in. You can tell there's a real bond between these guys, but it's not like totally fleshed out yet. Kind of feels like this like mutual adoration, but they don't really know each other that well, but would like to know each other. But we see early on Tibby in contrast to Cochran, mistreats a dog right away. Cochran gives him a jacket, his old flight jacket, and Tibby, a dog of Tibby's, starts biting at it, and he just picks up this dog by the scruff and throws him in the pool. This might be one of those foreseeable things. This might be a bit of a foreshadowing. This guy might kill a dog later.
Yeah. Luckily, we do find out. Spoiler at the credits: no animals were harmed in the making of the film. But there's some not great character points happening to pooches in this movie. I'll tell you that.
Yeah. Then we get a scene of Tibby and Maria alone, and Tibby's again chastising her for being rude to Cochran, not coming down for lunch, and we get the sense Maria's unhappy in the marriage. She wants to have a baby, and Tibby wants her to keep her figure, like a gross old dude would want of a young woman he marries. He's had several kids, and he doesn't want her to ruin her figure with childbearing. So this is, again, there's some red flags with this Tibby character.
There's some red flags here that beyond any of these like character interactions, the fact that you're going to what is clearly a crime lord's estate with his like capos everywhere. He's got men who are clearly like wearing trench
he's
coats.
He's a businessman.
Packing guns and wearing earpieces, and he has just a stable of people like employees around him who are all look like henchmen. This guy is starting to have some flirtatious moments with this man's wife, and so. I would say that the unforeseen circumstances, I suppose that's a matter of opinion, but I would contest.
Yeah, this movie could be called Don't Do What Donnie Don't Does.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, this first act is, I will definitely say, I think this is probably the strongest, act of the movie. Like, Tony Scott is, we are seeing his...
He's a master.
We are seeing his craft in terms of atmosphere, and I think again we talked about the DOP, great photography, great cinematography. The Top Gun opening, which I thought myself, like, am I watching Top Gun here? Before I even realized that it was Tony Scott doing this movie, I found out even more so it is actually the same flight simulators they use in Top Gun. So Tony Scott is just basically cracking open the vault that he had at Top Gun. But I think, some people kind of critiqued this opening as I'm going to do a bunch of flashy things and kind of blind you with glamour before we get into a story. But I think it works really well. I think it sets up the characters, and I think it's actually the most on point Cochran is as a character, is this opening act.
Disclaimer, I watched first by accident the 2007 DVD director's cut, not knowing it was the director's cut, which is actually the rare example of director's cut being shorter. So it's like 20 minutes shorter than this. I really liked the director's cut as it was, with 20 minutes shaved from the movie. But there's one thing, I'll talk about it later, from the opening that isn't in the original cut that makes the movie, I think, immediately better. But I'll get into that later.
Okay, all right. Okay, fair. Yeah,
by the third act, I think I can talk about it.
All right, because I did not watch that version. So, okay, good to know.
But yeah, I mean, throughout this entire movie, you just see Tony Scott's style on full display. He's able to make things that are, I think could be very trite, and this movie could be a lot more trite than it is. He's able to shoot things so beautifully and so fully that there is a grandiosity to them.
Yes,
he's a master
absolutely.
at play settings, there's so much depth to every shot. There's so many layers to everything, like you see just the shots of the naval party, just like the rows and rows and rows of people. It just fills the frame so well. Yeah. He really knows how to compose a shot.
My critiques of this movie notwithstanding, I definitely think it's a very well crafted world that we're entering
100%,
into here.
100%.
Yeah, so we're getting Act 2. Cochrane obviously has now arrived. He's met back up with his friend Tibby, and they're going hunting. And I actually didn't catch this at first, but I later looked back and realized. So the way that they know each other is Cochrane, as a pilot, used to fly Tibby on hunting trips. Trips. So that's how he knew him. So that's also why in the opening scene Tibby supplies the champagne for the party. There's a watch that he gets and a pair of like hunting shotguns that he gives him as his retirement gift. He wants to go to Italy and get these nice and fitted for him. So that's a big thing they share is hunting and mainly guns, which will obviously
and his buddy warns him as well. He's just going to get you working for him right away. And Cochrane definitely seems like, no, I don't want to just go from job to job. I'm retired now. I don't need to work for him. But
I'm going on a long vacation with him.
Mendes is a powerful man who gets what he wants. So this seems to be a buttering up of getting Cochrane to work for him.
Yeah. So again, things that could be foreseen here. He's as they're hunting, he's taken away kind of a couple times. One time there's a phone call. Another time he has a dinner that these political issues keep coming up. He ends up having dinner with these two kind of businessmen. They go from sort of the classic dinner scene. And I actually think this is one of the best standalone scenes in the movie.
Beautiful scene.
Where Cochrane is kind of being goaded and tested by these two, particularly this one older businessman who's sort of the primary guest of Tibby here. And he's sort of trying to size him up.
Anything you want. 100 ducks, 100 quail, anything. Both of you.
I want to shoot 100 anything.
Oh, that's funny. Because I thought that you were from Vietnam. What happened? You see no action?
And kind of put him on the spot and sort of expose him as some, American, military goof, some dumb Navy boy. And Cochrane is not having it. He essentially kind of insults this guy a couple times, right back to him. The guy talks about how he once killed a jaguar that was 9 feet tall.
You know, the biggest thing that I ever killed was a jaguar. He stood 9 feet tall, including the tail. You know what I used?
Your car.
And Cochrane just goes, with your car. And so
that's really good.
It's just a great scene where I think this is one of the best scenes where we're learning a ton about all the characters. We're seeing a little bit of charm that Madeleine Stowe, that Miria is finding in Cochrane. We're seeing that Cochrane does not have a problem standing up to people, even people he doesn't know, even in a situation where he knows he's with powerful men. We're seeing that at the end of the day, we're seeing the friendship between particularly Tibby towards Cochrane.
Who's going to side with him.
Absolutely, yeah.
And you get to see the juxtaposition, again, the contrast of Cochrane versus the typical guest at the Mendez house, who are these like bloated, self-important, quote-unquote powerful men who
or lackeys.
Or lackeys. And, of course, Maria's like, oh, this guy isn't a typical friend of Tibby's.
Yes, yeah. And so it's a great turning the corner of sort of that first scene where he drives by her and when he's asking where the place is. And she's sort of dismissive of him, just going, here's another – either here's another lieutenant or capo, or here's another self-indulging politician, or just another meathead that he's hired. And so she's really getting to see who he is. So I think this is some of the most masterful scene work by everybody involved. I actually I don't have it on me, the name of the actor who plays sort of the main older businessman, but he's great. His exchanges with Cochrane are excellent. And they play the tension, the scene just right, where Cochrane knows just how far he can push it without really being, without crossing too many lines, and that Tibby continues to actually have quite a loyalty to Cochrane here. The two businessmen and Tibby and some of Tibby's men go into another room. Cochrane at that point says, you'll have to excuse me. Basically, that's my cue to leave. Miria wants him to stay. And then we cut to the other room where Tibby is chatting with these guys. And it's very much, it's that scene from Godfather 2 where Frank Pentangeli is basically saying, like, people don't respect your name. And because they're not giving me what I want. I guess it looks like Tibby had offered some money to
a union to buy political.
Yeah, to get political capital, and that they had rejected his offer. And you can tell right here the businessman isn't just the messenger, but he's the one also kind of trying to milk Tibby for more money or for a power play for himself. Yeah. He says nobody respects the Mendez name anymore. And again, much like Godfather, Anthony Quinn really just runs this scene, and you can see just the power, not just because he has men with guns around him, but just the power, the power that resonates from this character is really palpable. And he basically exposes both of the businessmen as, you're the ones who don't respect my name. You're the ones who think you can walk in here. They say, we don't like your guest. He insulted us twice. And he said, you're the one who came in here and you're insulting me.
Yeah. He's got this great line where he says,
you make a long speech about how things have changed. Maybe you think you're me. That's as stupid. Do you think he's me?
And then he asks the other guy, do you think he's me? It's like a great...
That's great. That's a great line.
That's like, which side you want to be on. And then he shoots one of them in the head. And the other one begs for forgiveness.
Yeah. We see a moment here where he goes from being a potential rival to just nip it in the bud. And he turns this guy into a weeping mess, just asking for his forgiveness. And so we see, we already very much knew, but we see outright now. Obviously, this is a crime boss that we have here in Tibby. And we cut back to find out that Cochrane did not actually leave; he did stay. Miria finds him reading in the library, and he tells her that he learned Spanish when he was in Madrid. And she talks about how she came to be married to Tibby, and how essentially, Tibby knew her mother. And she says some marriages are still arranged here. Basically, saying she was groomed to be his wife. This is where we really start to get some sexual tension starting to build.
But they're being very polite around each other.
Yeah, still absolutely observing. Yeah, still observing all of the, manners that they should have, and they're still in his house. So we can tell as the audience that there's tension. We know that they can feel it with each other, but nothing that, if Cesar or any of the other employees were watching, nothing that would look out of the ordinary. And in fact, what Tibby would want, which is like, my friend is here getting to know and getting along with my wife. And Tibby, There's going to be some unforeseen circumstances with that.
Unforeseen.
So after everybody's gone, Miria asks Tibby why only one of the guests left the property, basically revealing, she knows who she is, she knows who he is, and she knows the ins and outs too. She knows that somebody got a bullet during this meeting.
So this scene is not in the director's cut. Most of the stuff that's cut out of the director's cut is like the stuff that makes Tibby like an obvious, foreseeable murderer to them. This is, again, your husband kills guys, and like people come to your house and don't leave. Yeah. So I mean, it's a fine scene. There's nothing wrong with it, but there are just more things that tip the hand that an audience member doesn't need and totally gets without it being spelled out in the director's cut.
Yes.
That if there's one thing that would be my criticism of the original cut, it's just how much stuff is just laid bare. They're like, it is more effective if we're just putting it together.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's what we're starting to get to, is that we're seeing a really great, I would say just a tremendous cast in this movie. Sure. Amazing scene work. Tony Scott is, he's still cutting his teeth as a director. So I think we're seeing a lot of the gaps, and it's exposing some of where he hasn't gotten yet.
He was also a commercial director first, right? That's what he got famous for, is commercials and making things look sexy, which he is très bueno at,
exactly.
Very good. There's a Jeep commercial later in this.
Yes, there is. That's right. Oh my gosh. Yeah, there really is. But I think that what we're really starting to expose is that the script here, the adaptation of the adapted screenplay of this novella it's the GOAT of the movie. And I don't mean the greatest. I mean, this is the scapegoat of the movie. Is we're really seeing things dragged down by a script that, whenever something is in development hell, it's inevitably going, when it has years just sort of marinating and going between people. It's really hard to end up with the movie itself come out of that with a solid script, because it's been through so many hands. It's had so many rewrites. And apparently Jim Harrison, the author of the novella, said they shot the novella, and he said he cried. I don't know if he meant watching the movie or reading the script, but that they really took his script and just like to go back to The Godfather, they took it like Sonny Corleone at the toll booth, and they just riddled it with bullets.
Oh, see, I read that quote too, and I thought it meant the exact opposite. I thought he meant they shot the novella, like they shot the movie. They just shot the novella, and it was perfect. It was exactly as I imagined it.
Well, then, honestly, you could be right. Yeah, okay. I read it.
That's how I interpreted it.
Exact opposite way. That he meant that they destroyed it, but you could be right that's shot having two meanings, and saying that I cried at it. I don't know what he meant. All right, we're gonna have to ask people what they think there. Then all I can say is I personally think that the weakest point here is the script, and I think we start to see that particularly where we're going in the next acts, because what happens next is Miria goes down to visit Cochrane at his place, at his kind of beachside condo, his bordella, and they start talking about how they both feel stuck. They both feel trapped in the monotony of life.
12 years in the service, you'd think I'd know how to get from Monday to Friday, but
I know the feeling. Sometimes you can want out of a situation so badly.
Sounds like me. You seem different.
Oh, you mean that, a cold bitch like I usually am?
I didn't say that.
She apologizes that she kind of comes off cold, but that her husband and his whole, the environment that she lives in, keeps her very guarded. They go inside to make some sexy, sexy lemonade.
Yeah, a real frazzled Kevin here. He just can't get the lemonade straight.
And I would
maybe because he's using limes instead of lemons.
And that's the exact thing that we pointed out when we were watching. So I looked that up because there's a scene where they're making lemonade, and he clearly has limes. And so you're just like, is this a mistake? I did actually look it up. And so apparently yellow lemons are actually quite rare in Mexico. And so there are small green ones that they use to make limonada. They do, I guess they do look like limes, but that is actually how you make lemonade in Mexico, not a continuity error, which I would say I was kind of surprised by, because again, we're talking about Tony Scott and his attention to detail and his art direction and scenes. I thought that would be a pretty kind of crazy mistake to make.
This beach house is also, again, just to the set decorator, production design, just so good. Atmosphere. There's like 7 fans going in the background of this shot.
Yeah, it's hot.
And you're just like, this is a hot place.
Things are getting hot.
But it does so much to have that like texture and that little specificity does so much for the world building. Like it is simple, but the visuals are just perfect.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you see even some of Tony Scott's direction here, where she starts. So when they're making this lemonade, she comes there, obviously trying to get to know more, and not just apologize, but to start to kind of basically form up this relationship. So he says, "Do you want to come inside for a few minutes?" And she said, "Yes." She says, "Yes," but she actually doesn't come inside. She waits outside. And it's a great shot where we see him in the foreground, fumbling, dropping the limes. We're seeing good, like, charming, bumbly, Field of Dreams Kevin here for a moment.
Playing with Shoeless Joe.
Playing with Shoeless Joe, yeah, sorry. He is fumbling with the stuff. She's still waiting outside. And you can see 2 things. 1, she knows the sexiness that's building. And 2, you are getting the sense she's kind of looking around. She knows at this point, his people could be watching. It would be very unconventional and inappropriate for me to go inside this man's house alone.
Yeah.
And so it's a great shot where he's in the foreground and we can see her through through kind of the slits in the window, waiting outside while he's making it. He's kind of taking a while, and he has a great moment where he goes to try and bang out the ice and realizes like either there's no ice or he can't get it out. So he's just having a tough time with this lemonade. And finally she then comes in. This is where I'll say it starts to get a little less subtle, a little more heavy-handed, but then they have the most erotic lemonade making session that I've ever seen. And they're holding
she's cutting and passing. Yeah.
But again, I will say great shots, close-ups of their hands as they're passing a knife to each other, as they're squeezing some lemons out. And so this is where we're really starting to see it go from a cordial acquaintanceship to something's going on here.
And then luckily Rocky starts barking and interrupts the tension. So
Rocky's trying to save them the whole time.
Yeah, Rocky is doing his part. They won't listen. Rocky foresees it all.
Rocky knew, man. Rocky knew.
Yeah. Rip. R.I.P.
Rip Rock. So they go to a party celebrating this political leader. I assume kind of the one that they're referencing in the scene.
Yeah, Mendoza. Mendoza is the guy.
Not or maybe the bad guy from the McBain movies.
Yeah, maybe it's a crossover.
We don't know for sure. It could Mendoza. Be. So Mendoza has won. I guess he's the new president of Mexico. And so they're at a party, basically like it looks like an inauguration party. Super, super ritzy. Tons of people there. Mendez is right there up on the podium, right beside him, clearly showing he's the puppet master behind a lot of this stuff. Miria's up there with them. There's a great moment where Cochran is kind of just down on the floor, getting some food, getting drinks, and kind of looking around a little bit. I don't even think he looked that suspicious, but Cesar, our friend from earlier.
Yeah, that's what's perfect about it.
Yeah. The butler or Secret Service butler that comes up to him, he comes up to him and says, is there someone you're looking for, Cochran? And he just turns right back to him and says, listen, let's get it straight. You don't like me and I don't like you. So if I'm looking for someone, it's none of your effing business who I'm looking for. So he just tells him off right there.
It's great.
Exactly. He tries to have a pissing contest and Cochran just like shoots him down and walks away. A great moment in terms of the character getting a win, but I will say for what's about to follow, maybe a mistake to set off the radar of these Secret Service agents, because what happens next is he meets Miria in a coat room, and they do the deed. They give in to their. They've been together making sexy lemonade. They had we didn't mention it. They had a sexy raining on the beach moment where he takes a lock of her hair and brushes it out of her face, and now the tension has built up enough that they're going to do this thing right in the.
But just before that happens, though, he does have a scene with her where they're out in front of everybody. He goes, "We've gone too far. We both know where this is going, and like we need to stop it." Yeah,
that's right. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, so she just kind of walks away like, oh, this guy's a dick, I guess. And then they meet in the coat room and do the deed.
He changed his mind.
Let me tell you, one major difference in the director's cut is Tony liked to keep it steamy, and all the sex scenes are about 3 times as long.
Yes, they are. That is, this movie gets into... I wonder if our listeners know what I mean when I say baby blue on Friday nights on City TV. It gets close to it, yeah. It gets close to baby blue territory.
Yeah, I wonder if I ever stayed up late to watch this movie without knowing it.
Yeah, that's right. Is that Kevin Costner on City TV on a Friday night? Yeah, we get some very... it makes this movie, I think, makes the film version of 50 Shades of Grey blush. We get some pretty intense adult scenes here, and I did, in looking up a little bit about the movie, so this is something that would certainly not be recommended with what we know now. Tony Scott did not have them rehearse any of these sex scenes. He basically set up 3 cameras and told the actors to kind of find their way through it. And from everything we know, both Madeleine Stowe and Kevin Costner have never had any negative experiences. But this is something that, especially in the acting and the theater world, like there's a reason we have intimacy directors now, and it's actually very dangerous to put 2 actors, especially Madeleine Stowe has done some movies at this point, but Kevin Costner is a superstar at this point.
Yeah, and she is not. There's a clear power imbalance, and he's an executive director. He's an executive producer on
that's this. Right. So they are. So hopefully all went well, but that's definitely a good lesson that we've learned in the industry since then. Is you actually should not just let people, like the same way you wouldn't do a fight scene like that.
But Kevin did say after watching the director's cut where the sex scenes are 3 times as long, he said, wow, we really went for it. Like he was like, he had kind of forgotten. He's like, oh, wow.
We really went for
it. Yeah, you just dug up some more footage of us going to town on each other. That's got to be an awkward, weird thing to just know that all that footage exists somewhere and you don't have any control over it. Like, guess there's footage of me doing that to her.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, he's already let the footage of Malibu Hot Summer be released to his chagrin.
That's right.
It's not his first time having something he didn't really want out in the world.
That's true. After this happens, Cochran begins to worry. Tibby is catching on. Tibby, just asks Cochran out of the blue, like, do you think my wife is beautiful? Which Cochran definitely doesn't act cool to this question. He's like, what? Yeah. Why would you ask me this?
What do you mean? I don't know. What's your wife's name again? Have I met her yet?
I guess she's pretty. Yeah. I guess
beautiful is a complicated word.
Yeah. And Tibby says, a woman like that, I would do anything to keep her. So Cochran begins to plan his exit strategy. He calls his buddy and from the Air Force and kind of tells him what's going on. His buddy's like immediately like, dude, get out of Dodge. This guy foresees. Yeah.
This guy says that these are foreseen circumstances.
Yeah, these are foreseeable. I foresee you dying in Mexico. He literally says, here, you cheat on, you sleep with a guy's wife, you all go to couples therapy. There, they kill you. Cochran kind of begins to pack and plan his exit strategy. But Maria kind of, she says she never let herself feel until now. And now it's, she never wanted to know what she was missing. And now she knows.
For a long time, I didn't let myself want anything because I thought I wouldn't know what I was missing. That's not true anymore. Do you feel the way I feel?
I don't know that I have the right to feel anything where you're concerned.
You think? means that you're taking another man's wife.
It's a pretty good way of looking at it. Yeah.
There's some kind of macho ownership of women here thing that it almost feels like Cochran is not wanting to overstep his bounds, and he knows he has. Rather than like just being worried about his friend being a homicidal maniac, he seems more worried about the whole the pride and ego of Tibby and doing the wrong thing by his friend. But Maria kind of cuts through the bullshit and says, "Forget right or wrong. If you could spend time with me, would you?" And he says yes. And they plan to sneak off to his cabin.
Yeah.
So we see this has been like an ongoing affair, and they're both being a little too cavalier. At one point, she waits out in his Jeep, and there's like a guy with a gun right there. Again, that is not in the director's cut. Like, them being that stupid is not there.
Because I think this is where I really started to fall off, because as we talked about, Kevin Costner is someone who every time he's on screen, you even in the times when he's an antagonist or a foil, you want to root for him. There's something very likable, there's something identifiable about him. I found this to be the exception to that, where I think it's not primarily due to his performance, although I think there's room to grow in some places. But I think just the way the character is scripted, I am not rooting for this guy. Like, he is making terrible choices that are like, this is the thing we always talk about with why The Walking Dead sucks. That, like, I talk about with Tyler and Bill, is people just make dumb choices that as an audience member, you're screaming at them like, this is, what do you mean you're gonna kiss her right in the airport when the crime boss just drove away from dropping her off? What do you mean you're gonna have sex, of all places, in the coat room at a giant public party?
Which I understand that's just the romanticism of the moment, and that's
sure,
like that worked.
If it was that standing alone, I would agree.
Yes, which again, in the director's cut, it's like that is the moment, and then we basically see them. We don't even see them in the director's cut planning together to run away. They just, he's going to fly, and she's going to go, but you don't know until they drive together. So
well, then I agree. That would have made it, I think, a lot better, because making the plan that's a terrible plan, it just makes me upset. It's not like I'm rooting for Tibby. I don't think Tibby is a good guy, but I'm looking at them hatching what is just clearly like, I don't want to walk down this path with you. I know exactly where it's going. Like, this is exactly. You're going to get caught.
Exactly. So, she calls her sister in Miami to say, can you cover me? I'm going to pretend to go visit you. Tibby's listening into her tapped phone, and then Tibby goes to visit Cochran. And this is a really good moment of, they both are suspecting each other of knowing certain things. And Tibby kind of shows up at his beach house and is like, hey, can I come in? And he can see Cochran looking around elsewhere. And Tibby's like, it's just me here. So Tibby is aware that Kevin is aware that other people might be watching.
He knows that he knows, but he doesn't know that he knows that he knows.
Yeah, and exactly. So Tibby asks him, come to Caracas with me. I'm flying there this weekend. And he just noticed Cochran's got a bag packed. Cochran's like, yeah, no, I'm going to the cabin. Sorry, I've got my heart set on that. And Tibby is like, oh, we're all going away this weekend.
We all go in the morning. I go to Caracas, my wife to Miami, and you, my dear friend, to Agua Prieta, where even a Mexican feels lonely.
So again, like, when in the director's cut, that's all that all of her plan to go to Miami. He's going to the cabin, and then you hear Tibby say that, and you're like, oh, Tibby for sure knows. But that's the amount of information you get. You don't get the phone call. You don't get the tap scene. It's all so much sparser, and it's a really good lesson in, like, things can be cut from movies, and the audience can put way more together than you think.
And it makes so where we're going here is when they get caught very soon. I think that would have made it a lot more of a moment, because I had no doubt that when they go to this cabin that they're about to get caught. Like, I had no doubt that they're not making it out of here, in one piece. But at least it was just these subtle like moments from Anthony Quinn, I would have enough doubt to go, maybe that's going to be the climax of the whole movie and not what's about to come up in this act.
As the audience, you do know, you can sense it in your gut. You know something that the characters don't.
Yes.
But when you think the characters, which is how you build suspense, that's like when the audience knows something that the character doesn't, and you know what's going to happen. Yeah. And in this, you're right. Instead of the audience knowing something that the characters don't, it's the audience knowing something that the characters should know. They should know that they're being stupid and reckless. So they meet up at the airport and they drive, and they have a raunchy Jeep commercial drive where she grinds up on him while he's driving and drinking a beer. He's just living the best Kevin Costner life you can. Yeah, soak it in, buddy, because it's gonna get bad.
It's good that he has.
You're flying too close to the sun here, Costner.
Yeah,
and you're not even in your jet. You're in your Jeep.
Exactly.
You know, it is a Jeep commercial, and it's great. And then they make love in a river, and then they drive up to Cochrane's cottage.
And can I say, in this Jeep romp that they have, poor Rock, the dog, is in the back while he's swerving around, like can't see. He's driving down a rocky highway here, and poor dog's getting jumped around.
Yeah,
in the
not
back
the worst thing that'll happen to this dog.
That's true.
So we see Cochrane and Maria are making love in his old cabin. He kind of tells a story about this elephant that he killed in Vietnam.
Why would you shoot an elephant?
It was a mistake. We had orders to shoot them because they were hauling supplies for the VC. But I wouldn't do it. Any asshole can shoot an elephant. Then one day I did. By mistake. It's kind of like a kid who throws a rock at a bird. You don't think you're going to hit it, but then you do. God, I felt so goddamn bad. I painted this tiny elephant on my fuselage. Commander got pissed off, but I said, "No, sir. I shot the elephant, and I got to remember what this war was all about."
Oh, what was it all about?
For me? I don't know. I guess killing things you didn't mean to. When you hadn't thought it out.
I think this is maybe the thematic, what is one of the themes of the movie.
But what are we really talking about here?
Yeah, what are we really talking about? Where she asks him what that war meant to him, and he says that war was just about killing things you'd never meant to kill, which is going to be, one, his dog, Rocky. He gets his dog killed for sure.
Oh, he does. Moments from now.
Yeah. And then she tells Cochrane she loves him, and he kind of jokes about how stupid it would sound for him to say it. That he's not a type of guy who gets all romantic and blushy,
Yeah.
And then after some more lovemaking, we see some boots at the door. We see a shotgun go right to Rock, and Rocky fly across that cabin. I don't mean to laugh. It's so heartbreaking.
I know. Usually in most movies, you see you see the dog later on the ground, or you just hear the shot, but they show this poor dog just getting blown away.
Yeah, they blow the dog immediately away after he tries to bark to warn them.
Yeah, Rocky tries to save with his last breath, tries to save him.
He's foreseeing it all.
He does. Rocky knew. Rocky, we are all Rocky in this movie.
Yeah, exactly. We are all the dog, but the dog dies halfway through. So what does that say about us? Are we still here?
We're destined to be blown away.
There is Tibby with
all his main lieutenants. Yeah.
Yeah, and they just beat the ever-loving piss out of Cochrane.
Yeah, this is a beatdown for the ages.
And it is brutal to Maria as well. He calls her a faithless whore and says, if you want to be treated like a whore, you will be. And he slits her face open.
Yeah, he gives her I think they called it Glasgow smile. Which is
it's really rough to watch.
It's really brutal. Yeah,
it's not the type of thing you like, and we've talked before about the violence against women being a key motivator for a character, and how it's not always the best. This movie is called Revenge, so I kind of foresaw this because I'm not as dumb as Cochran.
And we are getting into just an overall story of these lovers destined to doom. But it's a pretty brutal scene. And for all involved, and we're really I will say Anthony Quinn, his performance has been. As he's just done such a great performance in this movie, and there's so much that's refined and restrained, and he does just emanate in that earlier scene with the lieutenants. It's Godfather style power. It's so contained and reserved, but it's so palpable that that this is a dangerous person, and this is his scene where he unleashes it both himself and through, his people. And so I say Anthony Quinn in particular, and Madeline Stowe's performance in the scene. Kevin's great too, but he's mostly just on the ground in a pool of blood. I think that this scene is able to hold on despite those bad tropes because of really great performances.
For sure. I think the movie is able to, and I think the point of the movie, it is having a grandiose, almost mythical stature to this story that it's trying to portray it as a mythic story, and I think it does well to not try to just get into the nitty-gritty of like an exploitation film of like, look at this violence.
In the same way as many people have critiqued how Game of Thrones really just started to use that as a trope. And I think it's a lot different when you have a long-running series that can have responses from audience, and they failed to correct that for a long time. But I think that it is just, it's part of the story that's trying to tell here. And I'll say Madeline Stowe, I think, continues to really ground, even though she has a very different role in this second half of the movie. I think she does an incredible job in her performance.
Yeah. So Cochran is kind of left for dead. They burn down his cabin. They leave him for dead in the desert. And Maria is brought to a brothel where she's kind of shot full of heroin and raped by one of Tibby's men, who kind of just the most disgusting piece of shit you could imagine. Great casting, because this guy is repulsive.
Yeah,
who's like, you never knew my name before, you never remembered my name, you'll remember it now. Disgusting stuff. But this is where Cochran being left in the desert, this is the moment. This singular thing made the beginning so much better. The beginning of the director's cut has him flying over the desert while you don't know it's Kevin Costner, but you see the body in the desert beforehand crawling around, like interspliced with the jet. So it's like this great thing of like, this excess and like this party time. But you're like, oh, this is a place where dead bodies are left in the desert. That's what you're going into. That's what you're driving over. So that little bit, and then when you see it, you're like, oh, this was great. This was set up from the beginning. Of course he was destined to be here. It just made things not seem like it's supposed to be unforeseeable. Makes it so that it's supposed to be, this is what follows from everything you've done so far. So Cochran is left for dead in the desert. He's discovered by this local man named Moro, and he brings him to his mother, who's like nurses him back to health. She's kind of looks like this indigenous native healer. That's juxtaposed, kind of nursing Cochran back to health, is Maria in this brothel, who is being drugged up by this fellow prostitute named Antonio, who is kind of also looking out for her and nursing her. This is where I kind of liked, like, there were some things in the movie that were like, who is that character? And why don't we get any explanation from them? And I kind of, again, in the director's cut, not to keep on talking about the director's cut, but when the plot is thin, as the plot of this movie is a little thin, the sparser the details, sometimes the better. Because if you try to expand on something, it's like, what does Bilbo Baggins say? Like, not enough butter spread over too much bread.
Too much toast. It's thin.
It just shows its thinness. But when you keep things a mystery, it makes you lean in and go, I don't need to know everything, but I'm intrigued. And that was both of these things, both Cochran getting healed up by this mysterious woman, and then Maria being taken care of by this like male prostitute who's clearly been victimized himself. there. I just thought it was really effective to show these twin journeys.
Yes, I agree, and I think that there's an argument to be made there where then you can say maybe there should have been more screen time and a little story to Antonio, but then also maybe it just works, as is, where we just get the sense of, again, like you said, just us recognizing that journey. Both of our leads here in Cochran and Maria have fallen from the upper echelon, so we see where they were and now where they are, and we're getting a taste with Antonio. And I think the head of the brothel later, like a taste of, hey, this is what life is like for us down here all the time. We get that a little bit from Morrow too later. Yeah, so I think that there are effective things going on. I think my biggest problem is they're a little too underexplored, and what is at the front really at this point in the movie starts to just get so cynical that as one reviewer I saw noted that things start to really lose their meaning just because it gets so dark and cynical.
I like that shit, but it certainly does get dark and cynical from here on out.
So Cochran had been left for dead. He's been beaten to a pulp. I will say, this is where I also just have a problem with the movie. I don't understand, or at least we don't get a sense of why they leave him for dead and not just outright kill him. Because I feel like, again, in terms of unforeseen circumstances, you really you've brutalized this woman who he's been with. You've left him just in the desert. Yes, chances were slim he was going to survive, but I feel like his henchmen at least do the gladiator thing where, he sends the henchmen out and out to the desert to kill him, and somehow he escapes, and they just go back and go, we're not going to piss the boss off. We'll just tell them he's dead. But anyway, they choose to leave him alive. And so after he is picked up by a rancher named Morrow, he recovers. He goes into town, and Morrow leaves him with this knife. And he says that you can use it to cut off the balls of your enemies. Which he says right in front of his very young daughter, who has been playing the, I'm not sure if it's an accordion or a penny whistle, but she's in the musical interlude during this. Where
a penny whistle is pretty different than an accordion. I just want that.
Okay, what's the thing? What's the thing I'm thinking of that looks like an accordion?
Well, it's not a penny whistle.
All right, I don't know. Something sounds like that. What's a penny whistle? Oh, is that the slide flute thing?
A penny whistle. No, that's a slide flute. A penny whistle is like a little shitty tin recorder-esque thing.
Oh man, well there's something that looks like an accordion. I'm looking it up now because I gotta know. Okay, concertina. It might be a concertina. Actually, that's what I think it is because accordion has accordion is the Weird Al thing, and it's got the keys on the side. So okay, I knew it wasn't an accordion, so I was half right. It looks like a concertina.
All right, we've cracked it. We can move on.
Anyway, he drops him off, gives him the knife, and in town, Cochran meets our boy, my friend and yours, James Gammon, who's this kind of sickly cowboy with a horse who offers to drive Cochran to Durango. He's got his horse trailer in the back, and so he hitches a ride. And while they're getting a drink at a bar, Cochran notices one of the men, one of Tibby's lieutenants, one of the guys who beat him and who took Maria. And he follows him to the washroom and slits his throat. He does the deed, and he takes him out right there.
I'll say this guy's also pretty dumb. He doesn't recognize Cochran at all. And he's like, Cochran has bruises and cuts on his face still. And it's just like, hey, man. He's like, do I know you from somewhere?
Yeah.
It's like, you literally just almost murdered me.
He's got
2 weeks ago.
He's got enough of his face back that he's clearly Jay Cochran, and still cuts and bruises. That's like, I wonder if this guy who looks like the guy I beat up, who looks like he was just beat up, might be the guy I just beat up. And the editing is kind of bad here too, because there's a couple times he kind of looks over too. Like if they had at least edited it from behind, and maybe we would have assumed he just didn't see the guy who came in at all, didn't really notice at all. But we see him kind of doing not a double, but almost a triple take, and then going, what's your problem, man? So he's noticing him enough to like stare him down, but hasn't clued in. Maybe this is the guy I just left for dead.
And then he says, amigo.
Yeah.
So
buddy.
does he recognize him? Like,
With still enough time for Costner to just put that knife right through him.
To gut the dude.
Get him, slit his throat. He gets back in the car and drives with James Gammon. Just tells straight up, like, just met this guy, but they're in a motel room the next night, and he's like, he's like, you want to go out and hit the town with me? And he just turns and goes, I killed a man I hated today.
You've been driving a while. A little poontang might ease your mind a bit.
I killed a man I hated today.
I got you. I want to mix your pleasures.
Better not mix your pleasures.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, James Gammon gets it. Like, that dude, he's like, I've killed a few people I didn't want to.
Yeah, exactly.
I didn't feel like partying then either.
Yeah, this isn't his first rodeo. So they end up then the next day, they go and deliver the horse to who turns out to be one of these guys that earlier Tibby and Cochran were playing tennis with, and Tibby wanted them to kind of just lose to them, and this guy was cheating, and then Cochran ends up like hitting him with the like spiking it, serving the ball right into the guy. So remembers this guy clearly and knows this guy at least more than our other boy from the bathroom. This guy's going to know me. So they drive in, and he kind of tries to put his sunglasses on and look away, but we can see that the guy looks right at him, knows who he's looking at. But they are able to get out. They go back on the road, and our sickly cowboy, James Gammon, longtime manager of the Cleveland Indians, gets his last hurrah in, and he dies on the road. And Cochran very nicely takes time to go and do the kind of that desert burial. Just finds a bunch of rocks.
Yeah, it's true. And another beautiful shot, beautiful landscapes all through this movie. Like, it's almost like in Fandango at the end when he's like holding the
when he's crouching down, and he's holding the beer out. Yeah, it is a little bit like that.
it's like this is where Gardner Barnes went to in Mexico. It's like this is what was.
And the movie kind of started like Fandango a little bit too, where he's having the big party and a big send off. So I do think that this is Fandango 2. We finally got the sequel we always wanted, and because listen, Gardner Barnes went down to Mexico. We assume at the end of that movie. Yeah. Where do we pick up? We pick up with, this guy's a different name, but he's a Navy pilot, but he's been in Mexico getting to know people.
But he was a Vietnam vet. Jay Cochran is a Vietnam vet.
Sure. Okay. So we can fix this timeline. So Gardner Barnes goes down to Mexico, has a change of heart because he was so persuaded by Judd Nelson that he ends up then going to Vietnam.
Killing an elephant.
Has some friends from before in Mexico. That's how he meets an up-and-coming crime lord named Tibby. Goes then into the Navy.
Only manages to age about 6 years over 20 years.
That's right. It's Gardner Barnes after all. He's immortal. And then, of course, he has to do an assumed name because originally he was a draft dodger, but then he wasn't.
Exactly.
And that's how we get Jay Cochran. So this is, we're going to dub this episode Fandango 2.
Fandango 2. All right.
Yeah.
Nice funeral for old cowboy. I don't think we get James Gammon gets a name. I think he's just dead.
No, he's just
cowboy.
I think he's just Texan is his name in the credits.
Texan, right.
So he goes back into a motel. He's got the car, it's his car now, basically. And this is where Amador, played by Miguel Ferrer, finds him and offers to help. Also, quick note, do you know what else Miguel Ferrer, what famous Disney movie he did the voice for?
Is he in Mulan?
Yeah, he is. He's Shan Yu. He's the bad guy in Mulan, which I had no idea. Yeah, he's the general of the Huns who invade. So Miguel Ferrer finds him and offers to help. This is where, again, I'm starting to get, I can see this working in a book context. This is where I'm starting to get a little stretched in a movie.
In a movie, you're right. It's like, and here's this guy who just agrees to help you enact your revenge for some vague reason.
Exactly. Because it's one thing to go, if he was at Moro, because we find out that Amador is Moro's brother-in-law. that the wife who Morrow mentions when they're leaving, he had this beautiful wife who's obviously gone now. And Amador tells us that his sister was also killed by getting into some business with Tibby, essentially. So he has a vendetta, so he wants to help him. But yeah, I agree. This is where we're starting to go, okay, so he didn't find the brother-in-law where he could have when he was being recuperating under Morrow's care.
Yeah.
Because I can believe that Tibby is this giant crime lord, that there's a lot of people who want to get revenge on Tibby.
Yes.
But he runs into him like way out of the way in a random motel. How did he find him? How did he what are the odds of running in that first henchman that he kills in the bathroom at that bar? Like the odds of running into that guy. And then later we're also in a bar. Like they're not really hunting these guys yet. They're stumbling into them one by one. Amador stumbles into finding Cochrane. So this is where we're starting to plot wise, I think, really go downhill.
The idea is Amador has like whisper networks. Like he knows what the word on the street is. Like what he says is the Mexican gossip. So
okay. Sure.
It's a thin justification.
Yeah.
100%.
Just because he's styled as sort of just like maybe not a street thug, but like he is a street thug. I think he is a street thug. Okay. Yeah. But like, so that's what it doesn't seem character wise like he's somebody who has the connections to find this guy in a motel room the night that he checked in. Like that's pretty
100%.
Like he's 100%. Not Lord Varys here. So this is
not the thinnest thing. The next thing might be the thinnest thing that happens in the movie.
Yeah. So anyway, Amador agrees to help him. He's like, I'll help you find your girl. I'll help you take revenge on Tibby and all his men. You've got a partner now. So then they go to a bar where he meets who is what the character is just called Rockstar, played by Sally Kirkland, who's this big kind of blonde bombshell cowgirl American who takes a shine to Cochrane. Obviously is attracted to him, and he is willing to, indulge and at least have a friendship with her for a moment. And when they're in there, they spot another one of Tibby's men who just happens to be in this bar. And there was a good shot earlier where when he's face down on the ground in the cabin before they burn it down, there's a boot that steps up to him. And so he's wearing these very recognizable boots. And then for us as the audience, we did get to see his face. So we know 100%, this is one of the guys who was part of the sting that took them both down. So Amador tells Cochrane he has Maria in a whorehouse, but they aren't sure where.
Costner is like, I could tell. I know a guy who would know exactly where. This fucker's out at the bar,
right?
Like this guy with the boots.
Yeah, I found a lead. Yeah,
and Sally Kirkland, the rock star, is like, hey, he's been hitting on me the last couple of days. I'll get him a backstage pass, and then you guys can fucking jump him.
So we cut back briefly to see Maria in the brothel. She's completely like sick, and she's shaking, she's shivering, and she's about to get again. I think it's the same.
It's Ramon. Don't forget his name.
Ramon is still there and is basically like having his way with her. We assume on a daily basis. She pulls out a knife and she stabs him. She gets a knife off of his like kind of his belt, and stabs him in the back. A little moment there back at the brothel. And then we cut back to the guys. We get to Amador and Cochrane and now, in his not first, but second, I think, role ever, a very young John Leguizamo plays Miguel Ferrer's cousin, his young cousin Ignacio. And so this is a very he basically has no lines in this movie. He has one time in Spanish he whispers something to Cochrane, but this is a very early role for John Leguizamo, who would go on to just be an all-time great, an icon, really. And with the help of them and Rockstar, they've got this guy in this Tibby's man in the trunk. They tie him to a chair, throw him into a pool, and are basically interrogating him very roughly to get the information about where Maria is.
Yeah, I like when they do find out where she is, and Cochrane wants to go right away. They're like, well, let's wait. And then they say, well, what do we do with this guy? And I really like that Amador's got this line like, and this is what makes me feel like he's this connected guy who like lives in the underbelly. He's like, I've known this guy my whole life. You don't think if we let him live, he'll forgive us. I gotta kill him. You should get out of here. Like, I think there are, and when they go to the brothel, Amador is like wearing a mask. He's like, why are you wearing a mask? Like, they know us here. Like, these are guys who live in this underbelly world.
Right.
That
yes,
it just again fills in some of the blanks.
Yeah,
a little easier.
Fair. About
that
how
is
they
just
found
out of
each other. Yeah, okay.
And it is out of character behavior rather than necessarily exposition.
Right. Yeah.
Which is great. Which I always love.
So in the meantime, we know that Tibby has found out that his man Ramon was basically visiting the brothel every day, and he kills Ramon. He's also found out through the tennis guy that Cochran is still alive, which is why he had the extra bodyguards.
Yeah, and then so like they say, they go to this brothel where they think Maria is, and she is gone, and the madam is kind of giving them attitude and said she was really popular. She says, I think they took her to some rich guy's house, and Costner throws a bunch of money at her, and Miguel Ferrer then takes off his mask and says, if she's not there, we're going to come back and kill you.
Mm-hmm.
To which she again, good storytelling, really simple storytelling. Just
good
you can see the
work.
close up on her hands as she just drops the money, and he's like, she doesn't know where she is.
Yeah,
which is just again just really good.
Yeah,
simple
a great way to resolve the scene and
tell the story visually.
Yeah,
this is when the plot is just on like overdrive. Just nonstop. Yeah. They're just like, well, let's go see Tibby then. I'm like, yeah, that could have been the first option.
Well, exactly. And this is where I feel like kind of the last act does start to fall in on itself, where they build and build and build, and then it's sort of just like, boom, why don't we just go do what we could have done originally? And as we'll see in a moment, it is an incredibly successful operation of getting the jump on it.
It's pretty simple. Yeah. They haven't killed so many of Tibby's men now that his army is deflated. Like, they've killed like 2 of his guys. He could still have more with him. So they stake out a riding trail that Tibby goes on every day. And he's got one guy with him. And Cochran kind of waits for him by a big tree. Great, again, just beautiful shots, beautiful landscape.
Yeah,
like this is
incredible.
This is Tony Scott.
Incredible
Tony
location
Scott
shooting. Yeah,
painting the picture very well. And as they approach the Costner, the two buddies hiding, Amador and Ignacio, ambush Tibby's men. They kill Tibby's men, leaving Tibby alone. And
they pop out of the ground like command. It's a pretty good operation. Like he's got the like grass and stuff like on top of Ignacio or Miguel Ferrer. I can't remember which one it is, and they dug a hole, and like Navy SEAL commandos, they just pop out, boom, take the guy out, and Tibby's left on his own there with 3 shotguns on him.
Thematically, we can talk about whether this is questionable or what this means, but it is very good scene work between Anthony Quinn and Costner here.
That's
where
true.
They both draw on each other, and Tibby says, perhaps we both deserve to die. And he asks Cochran to apologize for betraying him, being like, ask for my forgiveness for taking my wife.
I ask you now as a man and a former friend to ask my forgiveness for taking my wife away from me. I ask your forgiveness for taking your wife away from you.
Tibby says she's at the convent, and you can see he's lost her. He's lost everything. Anthony Quinn is phenomenal in this.
Yeah, absolutely. We can move aside the kind of questionable like ethics and thematic nature of this for a second.
Yeah.
Absolutely, acting wise and like scene craft, both from the director, from just the way the shots are constructed, like a really beautiful scene technically by everyone involved, and I do like the structurally that it builds up to be either this. You thinking are they going to go kind of a Western like standoff? Is it going to be a shootout? Is it going to be another like bloodbath? And then they kind of turn that on its head, and it just becomes sort of this character driven moment between two people who were friends. And again, this is not to excuse or erase anything that Tibby has done up to this point, but they give this human moment to Tibby where he kind of puts his gun down and he's looking for this moment of not even necessarily reconciliation, but at least admission from this man that he took his wife away. Yeah. And Anthony Quinn's performance is incredible. And of course, I think this is what we're seeing too in Kevin Costner is Kevin Costner stands right up there with a heavyweight like Anthony Quinn. And this scene wouldn't work if they both weren't, if they both didn't know exactly what was going on under the page. And in a movie where I think the script is the weakest point, this point really shines, where they both know how, as we said, how to lift it off the page, how to know what's going on underneath, how to play the beats and the timing to make it mean something and be believable and actually be believable in this moment, that after this intense, like violent hunt, that they're going to have this moment, and you don't walk away going, yeah, right. You walk away going, oh, wow.
And not a cringy moment that you're just like watching Costner, who's been hell-bent on revenge, like just forgive the guy for like sending the woman he loves into a life of rape and torture.
Suffering and torture, yeah. Question for you. Do you think, because the scene cuts away after the quote-unquote the forgiveness moment, we don't see anything else happen in that scene. We're cutting now to the convent. Do you think that they killed Tibby?
I don't think he does. Which, like, in a movie called Revenge, like, I don't know if you want that satisfaction of getting the villain who deserves to be killed, who has been horrendous, or like if forgiving him is too much of I don't know. I've wrestled with it, whether that like lets him off the hook, lets the audience off the hook, whether we're supposed to believe this apology. I didn't believe that Kevin was earnest in his apology, but like kind of in a state of grace, relented and said, to get the information he needed, go, I will give you this closure. I will act like I am the wrong party so that you can feel like you can have some closure. But I don't think he does kill him. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah,
I think we would have seen him kill him.
That's usually my, if you don't see it happen, unless it's a heavy implication when you leave a scene, if you don't see the shot happen, it probably didn't happen. And so, I think that he doesn't either, which in a way, like, I guess, like, there's something poetic and like about that works for me. But I do think I'm not saying this movie doesn't contain enough revenge. But I do think in terms of like, it's supposed to be structured as this revenge story. He does kill the one guy in the bathroom. He's about to walk away, and Amador decides to kill the other guy. They decide not to kill Tibby.
Yeah.
It just is an interesting trajectory where it's not this war path of revenge from either person that you think it's going to be, but we are seeing revenge take place in all these different ways. Like Tibby eliminates Ramon, like in revenge for taking advantage of his wife, even though he put his wife into that situation. Yes. And we're seeing like the guy who he insulted by hitting him in tennis reveals that he's still alive, sort of getting revenge. So we are seeing it take place all over. So the theme is certainly taking place, but I think it is just an interesting trajectory that we almost get this non-ending to that part of the story.
Yeah, which I kind of think it saves it, that Cochran doesn't want to continue the cycle of killing people.
Yeah, yes.
And it's just like, you know what, not to be like this guy has suffered enough, but killing this person is not going, like, I know where she is, and that's what matters. To me,
Exactly.
like I think that is better. But no, I definitely wrestled with it, and I generally like movies that make me wrestle with it. So
yeah, I agree, and I do think it's the one of the strongest parts is that Tony Scott kind of builds us up into this. We're wanting him to get revenge. We're wanting him to kill the lieutenants along the way. We like when Ramon gets his head blown off because he's just an awful, despicable human. And so I do like that. Then it shines the mirror back on us in this moment where we're like, of course we want to see Tibby bite it here, and then we're denied that. And I do think that's probably one of the strongest points of the movie. Then it makes me then go implicated in, like, is my lust for revenge in me, my desire to see violence? Am I seeing that exposed as something ugly as an audience member? And so I do really respect that they go that way, even if I think structurally there's a few pieces there at the end in terms of a story resolution that I think are missing, but thematically and in terms of what it's trying to say message wise, I think it works well.
I do too. And then Cochrane finds Maria in the convent on her deathbed. He kind of demands to see her. The nuns and doctors are kind of like, she's very sick. As she wakes up, Cochrane, this is kind of the full circle journey where he doesn't feel weird saying I love you to her. Like that gushy, like it's kind of interesting that this gushy romanticism that he's like trying to stifle down earlier in the movie.
Yeah, that he's too macho for.
Is washed away entirely. Mm-hmm. And we get like him carrying her outside in this beautiful landscape of this convent on a mountainside.
Yeah, it's very Shakespearean ending we're getting.
Very, very lush romanticism, like just full blown going for it. You know, she curls up in his arms and tells him she loves him, and then she dies in his arms. Costner's great. Fucking gets that single tear going, like holds her, and then we just pull out and we see, the grandiose landscape again, and that's the end of the movie. I think it's a beautiful, beautiful. Like, I think there's a lot of problems with the movie. Some of it is clearly too much tinkering in the editing room. Some of it is too much tinkering with the script. But at the end of the day, Tony Scott can compose a shot and can portray a mythic story that I was like, fuck yeah, Tony Scott at the end of this movie. I really like this movie. I think it has a lot of problems. Sometimes I struggle with like what the definitive version of a movie is especially when there's multiple versions. Yeah. And maybe there isn't one good version of this movie, but there is like a good movie in this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We're not talking Justice League. Is it the horrendous theatrical version or Zack Snyder's 4-hour version that maybe has something more to say? There's definitely a little more like going on here. And I agree. I think people have always struggled with that, with director's cuts. And I think, here's the thing. At the end of the day, we can love a movie or pan a movie or debate a movie. You like what you like. And so it is art. It's subjective. There is no, I can sit here talking about how much I don't like American Flyers or Vic can talk about how much he thinks Ray Kinsella is a bad dad. But at the end of the day, what you feel is what you feel, and what it speaks to you is how it resonates. So, yeah, I come out not loving this movie. I think that I come out probably with the same, with just our different ratio, where I think we feel the same way. There's a lot of beautiful stuff going on in this movie, and there's a lot of problems with it. There's just structurally and script wise, for me as someone who's very, very story always leads for me, even more than acting or characters or direction or plot itself. Story really leads for me, and I think the story lacks for me as much as I really do love. I do love that it turns the corner on that revenge trope at the end by not giving us our hero riding in to kill the villain. I do love that. Yeah. I think the cast is incredible in this movie, and I think they buoy it. They have it rise above where it should be.
Certainly.
But yeah, I think when the credits rolled for me, I just thought there were too many missing pieces story-wise or structurally for me to look back and say I think it was like a a solid watch. I think it's incredibly entertaining. But yeah, I think I come out going thumbs down on this one. Okay, good to know. Well, let me tell you, we're about to do best review, worst review, and I'll tell you, right. there's a thin layer of good reviews and a deep lake of bad reviews.
A helping. So much so, I have a worst review, but I have some just gem lines from other reviews that I'd like to share. Yeah. So best review came from Variety. I'll also say Gene Siskel and Roger Ebert both had pretty okay reviews on it. So it didn't get totally panned, but this is certainly the best review from Variety. It says, this far from perfect rendering of Jim Harrison's shimmering novella has a romantic sweep and elemental power that ultimately transcend its flaws. The much fiddled with footage was eventually pasted into its current form, and though much is lost, the tale's simplicity, grace, and subtlety shine through. All three elements of the love triangle are compelling, and as a crucial fourth character, Mexico performs radiantly. Mm-hmm. And I think that is in line with what I think too. I think there's something, like I have said before, mythic to this story that I think works really well, and I think it's an exciting, and it made me feel something. I do think it is a thin plot, and I think it is kind of a mess story structure-wise. But what is there at the root, I think, is really real.
Also, I would just like to point out, because I can't not, that there was a time, so you as you said, you just agreed with that review that says, among other things, that the fourth character is Mexico. I want to say publicly that one time I once said that that places can be characters in movie, and Cam laughed me out of the building. I was talking about how Baltimore is a character in The Wire, and Cam was so condescending and awful to me. And I just want to say that he agreed when Mr. Ebert is talking about it, that a place can be a character, but apparently when I'm talking about it, it's that's just
not what I said. I laughed at you for saying Baltimore is the main character.
We were debating who the main character is in The Wire, which is hard to say.
It's McNulty. It's McNulty.
Even though he doesn't appear in a season?
Yes. I mean, he's not the main character of season 4. But
I just want to say that the idea of a city being a character or a country is apparently not as outlandish as it was back in 2014. Times change.
I would say Baltimore is a character in The Wire. Is it the main character? Oh, all right.
Well, we'll ask on the Instagram.
Moving on. Worst review we've got from Entertainment Weekly. Owen Gleiberman. This is a bit of a long one, but I have to read it because it's so eviscerating. Okay, so you've had a couple of hits, maybe 3 or 4. You've become a monster sex symbol. You have power in Hollywood. You call the shots, so now you want more. In your new picture, you're not interested in being a mere hero. You want to play a stud, a saint, a martyr, a kick-ass demon. Who you going to call? You call Tony Scott, of course. He's the This line kills me. He's the director who does for Hollywood megastars what Leni Riefenstahl did for Hitler.
Wow.
Transforms them from big into monumental.
Okay. Wow. We're throwing out Leni Riefenstahl.
Yeah.
Yowza. Okay.
It says, in the shamelessly entertaining Top Gun, he made a piece of state-of-the-art Reaganite smarm that pushed Tom Cruise's career into overdrive. Basically saying,
I don't disagree with that.
Cruise, no, but it's like, but to compare it to Hitler is pretty.
Oh yeah, exactly. Bold. Give me that standalone, and okay, sure. But wow, that's an indictment right there. I don't know about. Yeah. I'm pretty slow to throw out those parallels.
Yeah,
especially around revenge as a film.
Yeah,
wow.
Yeah, this will go to the theme that I think the reception and talking about where this movie fits in Costner's career is very interesting. Now it's Kevin Costner's turn. Only this time, Scott's master plan may have backfired. From first shot to last, revenge is engineered to flatter its star. The trouble with Scott's movies is that they're not just star vehicles. They're about the aesthetics of celebrity, about the narcissism that's going on off screen. If revenge ends up knocking Costner down a peg, it'll be what he needs and he deserves.
Wow. Jeez. What did he ever do to you here in 1990?
This is the classic. Build him up to tear him down.
Yeah, this is just hating on John Cena for being the lead character for too long, I guess. And wow.
I mean, I think a lot of people were ready to just say, "Oh, don't fly too close to the sun here, Costner."
Yeah, this guy's done.
We like you, but no. Don't get too big for your britches, which is really interesting considering we have Dances with Wolves coming next.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So this is, and I think it's because this is the first movie he's done that he executive produced. So it's him flexing that star.
Yeah, and
power,
he had
that Hollywood muscle.
And I did read like he had say over the script and whatnot, and so I think it's fair to go to look at someone who's having their first taste of being truly a Hollywood power player. And I think maybe some of those things are a little harsh.
I think they're very harsh. It's very interesting to see.
I have heard I did see some reviews that people said this is a vanity project for him. And I think at least, I mean, I'm not inside the guy's head, and I certainly wasn't there in 1990. Especially the stories I've heard about how he went out of his way to do Field of Dreams, like during this. I think that is evidence against that, I agree. And again, this was, despite even my problems with this is a novella that was like lauded by people when it came out. It's critically acclaimed with characters that you can sink your teeth into, and that is what he has been looking for since he's gone from the guy auditioning to the guy with the options.
Yes.
Is I think he's looking for that, a chance to work with Anthony Quinn or the other person who was attached to this for a long time to play that role was Jack Nicholson. And so I think he's looking for like the ability to work with like some heavyweights and to grow through doing that and to show what he can do. They could be right, but I do not look at this as a vanity project.
No, me neither. I can understand it in the context and the time. I could see perceiving it as now you want to be gritty. Now you want to be taken seriously.
Yep.
And I guess that's like fair to go, this guy's getting to just pick whatever he wants and he's not picking well. But especially when there's, they're kind of being like, calm down there, vanity project. He's about to star and direct an epic. Like that's his, if anything, like it's a good vanity project, but that's his vanity project, which he's already made at this point. I think he's already by the time it's released, it's already in the can.
Has he? Okay.
Yeah. It's just a fascinating thing of Hollywood, of people really, let's tear this guy down, but they don't know that the next thing is going to make them all shut up again. Like they're going to be smelling Costner's farts right away.
Now that's a review. a big smell my farts to anybody who called this a vanity project. Signed, Kevin Costner.
Yeah. A few other reviews that I just wanted to say because they have lines that remind me of, in Spinal Tap when they're talking about the reviews of Shark Sandwich. And they're like, this was a two-word review. Shit sandwich. Where did they print that?
Where did they print that? Oh, that's clever.
Yeah. It's like, which is, I think, goes to the unforeseen thing. The Globe and Mail said, a brutal and brutally stupid thriller about brutal and brutally stupid people. And the other one that I really liked was from the San Francisco Chronicle that said, revenge is like a movie about two idiots who jump off a cliff hoping gravity will take a holiday. When they hit the ground, well, that's just too bad.
That's I'm going to take another line from Spinal Tap. That's clever. That's pretty clever.
That's clever.
And maybe not totally unfounded.
All right, who could have Kevin'd? So there was a lot of people attached to direct this first.
And because it was in development hell, we won't even be able to get into everybody who could have been in every role because there were so many people attached to this.
Yeah. John Huston was the first guy to direct, and he would have, I think that was when Jack was to play Tibby, but then Jack also wanted to direct it. Sidney Pollack wanted to direct it. Mm-hmm. Jonathan Demme wanted to direct it. Mm-hmm. John Huston didn't want Kevin once Kevin was attached.
Which I think is very interesting. He met with Costner and wasn't impressed by him. Was just like, and maybe it wasn't impressed as this guy doesn't have what it takes to be a lead man, but maybe just didn't see him as this role. And I will say of all the ones so far, I think that Costner can do anything. I think he's a lot more versatile than people give him credit for. But I do think this is the most ill-fitting suit that he's had on of any character so far. So I can maybe understand where Houston is coming from, but Kevin was a big enough star now to still get it.
Yeah, and it's certainly a suit that he tries to recreate a couple more times in his career, again, to varying successes. Like I would say his character, and like even Wyatt Earp is a little closer to this. Yeah. Even The Bodyguard's probably the best version of it. Walter Hill was set to direct with Jeff Bridges,
which I could see Jeff Bridges in this role.
Yeah, I could too. Certainly that era, Jeff Bridges is a very different Jeff Bridges than we know. Madeleine Stowe apparently got the role based on her audition for Bull Durham. She auditioned for Bull Durham, and Costner remembered her and brought her in for this.
There you go. All right.
Yes.
Yeah. Interesting.
Which, again, she would have been way too young for Bull Durham. Would have been terribly inappropriate for Bull Durham.
I assume we're talking about Sarandon here. That's who she auditioned for.
Yeah, Annie Savoy, yeah.
Yeah, Annie. Yeah. That would be... Yeah, this is a much better fit for her, I think.
Kevin in Memoriam, is anything making it, Adam? You can say no if you're like, none of this is making it.
Yeah, that's a good question. The shot of him just spiking that tennis ball right into that dude's back.
It's like, what?
And just going, they're your friends. I don't care about these people.
Fair enough. Yeah, I would say mine just because I think it's such a powerful ending. I think just like him holding Madeleine Stowe, carrying her out for the end of that movie, I think that little clip, chef's kiss. The Memorabilia Hall of Fame, the Museum of Fame.
I got two in mind, and I'm going to give honorable mention to the Jeep.
Oh, yeah, that Jeep for sure.
But I think, and this is, I say this with the utmost respect, I think we got to give it to Rocky's collar in this one to remember the great... The great dog that he was, and he was done wrong by an owner who should have seen this coming a mile away.
Yeah, that's true. Good boy Rock. You know what? You can put in the collar. I'll put in the Jeep. That Jeep deserves a spot.
That Jeep does deserve a spot. There was clearly some great times in that Jeep.
Just wear gloves when you're at the steering wheel.
Don't take a black light to it.
Yeah, no. All right, MVP of this movie. This is a tough one. There's a lot of candidates and there's a lot of not candidates.
Yes,
who would you say?
I want to give a couple honorable mentions. One to and you mentioned his name, but the director of photography,
Jeffrey Kimball.
Yeah, definitely honorable mention because I think, like we said, very beautifully shot and well composed film. And honorable mention, honorable mention to James Gammon, who just like nails this role. It's a really weird role. Like he doesn't actually serve that much of a purpose. He could have got a car from anywhere. He doesn't need to run into the tennis guy. He runs into all these henchmen all over. Anybody else could have said, "Hey, this guy's still alive." So it's just an odd character that's just kind of stuck in the middle of the movie and comes around for a cup of coffee and then he's gone. But James Gammon just nails it. He is just the perfect grizzled, old, sickly, kind of drifter cowboy who can die on the road.
If that character doesn't hit the ground running, if we don't know immediately who that character is and why,
it doesn't work.
You'd just be perplexed as to why that guy's even in the movie. But I didn't ask that once why he was in the movie because I enjoy James Gammon.
Yep. Yeah, he's so good in it. My final has to go to Anthony Quinn. I think he just commands the screen, commands the scenes he's in. There's been a lot of, mafia bosses, the powerful man in the background.
Yeah.
But not everyone can do it. Not everyone is Brando or is Pacino in part 2. It's a hard role to play. And I think, and especially to then have that moment of I'm not going to say redemption, but that moment of a glimmer of humanity, a sliver of humanity at the end, and to make you bite and believe that and go, oh, wow, that moved me. And so I think it's got to go to the great Anthony Quinn.
Yeah, I'm going to second that. I don't think there's, I debated Tony Scott because, like you say, the movie does have its problems. And I think what I really do like about this movie is made by Tony Scott. I don't think this movie in another director's hands I'm going to like very much at all. But at the end of the day, I still think there's too many flaws with the movie to that, as director,
I agree.
You still got to own. Yeah. But Anthony Quinn is pitch perfect from the moment we see him. Really, really great performance. I'm going to go with that. Adam, give me your Costner score.
It's going to be lower. And again, it's not he is good in this movie. He stands right up there alongside the great cast. There are some rough edges, but I think there are moments that don't ring as true for me as most other movies. I'm going to give it a 6.3 for my Costner score.
Oh, damn. That is about as low as we've seen Costner since, like, American Flyers.
Yeah, or since the Gunrunner about an hour and a half ago.
Well, okay, but whatever.
Yeah. It's still like a well passing grade because he is great in this movie. He is part of why this movie would not work without a lead like Kevin Costner in it. Doesn't matter what villain you have if you don't have your leading person be able to hold ground the way he does. But I just think that it's I think one of the less inspired performances that I've seen from him so far.
And the movie?
I'm going to give it, as a movie, a 6.2.
6.2. Wow.
It's low for me.
We were pretty far apart on this movie. Yet, while we discussed it, I feel like this happens a lot, just like our taste. I think we acknowledge each other's criticisms and what we like, but just like what bothers one person might bother them a lot more than what bothers me. And what I like about something might turn me on a bit more than it turns you on. To me, it's right up there in the same vein as No Way Out. I think No Way Out had its problems, wasn't a perfect movie, but showed something new from Costner. I think this movie's the same. I put Costner at a 7.7. I think he does fine work. I think he's Costner in it. I think it's new ground for him. And then I gave the movie a 7.9. Like, cut a few scenes and tighten some stuff up, and I think this movie's like maybe one of my favorite Costner movies that we've watched so far.
Yeah, well, yeah.
So I put it at a 7.9. That brings us to an even 7.05, which is just below our favorite Field of Dreams.
Well, thank God Vic didn't at least ruin this month for me. By blowing that movie.
Because Vic would just love this movie.
Vic's just going to love this when she listens.
I'm glad we watched it. I'm glad it exists. I would recommend it to Costner fans for sure.
Absolutely.
And Tony Scott fans. Definitely. For sure.
Yeah, and especially people who want to just see that early, Tony Scott, that Top Gun era. I absolutely like, I'm not giving it a failing grade. I think that it's certainly worth a watch, and there's a lot that you can take away that is really interesting in looking at the actors and the cast and crew that are a part of this movie. I think for me, it just missed a little more than it fired.
Yeah. Well, he shot his shot, but here's the thing about Kevin Costner. He has an even bigger shot coming.
He has the big shot.
We're doing Dances with Wolves. We're really excited to tackle that episode. It's the last one of our season. We're going to take a little break after that. Maybe come up with some plans for the new year. Thanks everybody for listening. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram and all the stuff.
We'll see you in the prairies next month.
Peace.
See ya.
Wyatt Earp and JFK.